Private members' business, notice number 3, motion on payday lending.
And I call the member for Indi.
Deputy Speaker, I move the motion relating to payday lending in the terms in which it appears on the notice paper.
And the member for Indi.
Thank you. In moving this motion, I give notice that in the current sitting period, I will bring forward a series of measures to address the emerging cracks and compounding impact of failures in the social service legislation. For many of my constituents, an increasing reliance on social services puts those already in a vulnerable position in a more vulnerable position, makes them more marginalised and ultimately less value members of our society. Ideally, social service payments should act as a safety net, providing enough resources for movement off and out of the welfare system. But in many cases, it is doing exactly the opposite. Low payment levels leave little room to move out of the welfare system, and an increasing reliance limits the ability to break through. I raise these issues because I know that these are the issues that are important in my electorate. Colleagues, every year that I've been in Parliament, I have asked my community post-budget for feedback, for advice and for solutions. This budget impact survey is one of the ways I investigate, measure and report back to Parliament. In this year's budget impact survey, social security was identified in the top of the Indi's 5 concerns. 24% of respondents raised social services as one of their top 3 issues, and 80% of respondents ranked social services as either very important or fairly important. And comments included, it's not adequate for the needs of many who are in the lower income brackets. We are treated as numbers with little bits of money attached to us. We are attended by a different Centrelink employee every single time, so it's often the case they don't understand our unique situation, nor do they care. Centrelink forms could be made much more accessible for us doddering old people, to alleviate some of the anxiety involved in getting the thing right. And we have a moral obligation, if we have a social conscience, to ensure we assist those who do not have the same advantages as others. And Deputy Speaker, next Monday I will table in Parliament the Social Security Commission Bill 2018. And the objective of this bill is to establish a Social Security Commission to provide the Parliament with independent and considered advice on a fair and reasonable social safety net for those who are dependent in whole or in part on social security payments. And this commission will ensure the acceptable standard of living for recipients of social security payments and whether the current level of payment provides adequate support. But however, today I want to talk about payday loans. For those reliant on social service payments to meet everyday living costs, a payday loan is an attractive, quick solution. Loans allow quick access to cash to meet everyday living costs and pay unexpected bills. But increasingly they are being used to pay other payday loans. And a number of constituents have contacted my office about the problems experienced by borrowers of these products and the targeting of the most vulnerable. And today in Parliament I'd like to acknowledge Sandra Blake. Sandra is a financial counsellor. She works with St Stephen's Uniting Care in Wodonga, and she's chair of the Hume Region Financial and Consumer Rights Council of Victoria, and her work today in bringing this motion to the Parliament. My constituents support the government's proposed legislation to address the recommendations in the 2016 review of the small amounts credit contract law, as do many community advocates within my electorate. We know that without this legislation, the high interest, high fee cash advances continue to trap people in the cycle of debt. And my constituents are concerned that payday loans will continue to be inappropriately handed to low-income and vulnerable Australians while the delay in presenting this legislation to Parliament continues. A loan, for example, of $120 in October 2017 has resulted in a debt of $11,059 in February 2018. Many, many more statistics. So I call on the government to bring the draft legislation before the Parliament as soon as possible in order to give consumer advocates an assurance that legislative change will be considered to address the increasing number of vulnerable loans impacted by these lending practices. So to my colleagues opposite and members of the opposition, thank you for being part of this debate, but let's get this legislation before the Parliament, let's get it voted on, and let's get the changes we know need to be made done.
I thank the member.